It's Ruse from Goblin-Inc, and today we're going to be talking about some new changes I made to my Arc build that makes it do more damage, have better survivability, larger mana pool, and even generate more infusions than ever before. This version of the build has kept me at rank 1 on the leaderboard, and I am just crushing everything playing this. Now, this build does have a slightly higher gear requirement than the previous version of the build. However, a lot of the new techs and discoveries I've made will be applicable to the old build, so even if you don't have the new gear requirements, you're still going to be able to learn stuff from this video. Now let's start by talking about the biggest change I've made to this build, which is the implementation of crit. See, part of the problem of implementing crit into this build is that there's just so many good nodes on the skill tree, it is very hard to find extra nodes to invest into crit. But by running the Malagara's Virtuosity bracers, we're able to set our base crit damage to 250%. What this means is that we're able to, instead of stacking crit damage, purely focus on stacking crit chance. This also enables us to run pinpoint critical on our skills because we're going to get the 60% more crit chance without getting the less crit damage because these bracers set our crit damage and it cannot be changed. This access to crit gives the build access to a lot more damage than it used to get, and in general just massively improves the damage. So you can see how the addition of these bracers gives us very cheap access to a lot of crit damage, meaning we're able to invest into crit very minimally while still getting a lot of damage from it. Now next I want to talk about the new lightning infusion tech, where we're able to generate infusions at a level that we were never able to before. And the tech is simply that snap can target dead enemies. This means that we're able to snap shocked enemies after they die, and it's still going to generate infusions. So the new playstyle becomes you just walk up to a pack, cast Arc, and the pack will die in one hit because this build is freaking awesome. And then you just snap the dead bodies, and that's going to generate the infusions, and you walk over them, and off you go, killing the next pack. This allows the build to clear much faster, and it frees up spirit for the next new thing that I'm playing, which is Arc Mage. Now, Arc Mage is a piece that is pretty expensive to be able to fit into the build because it's very punishing on your mana. And it's not Arc Mage itself necessarily that's so rough, it's Arc Mage combined with Mana Tempest. So, what does Arc Mage do? Arc Mage is going to give you an increased damage based on your maximum mana, but it's going to make spells cost more based on your maximum mana. This is going to massively increase the cost of your spells, but also massively increase the damage. You can see right now my Arc is at 75,000 DPS. If I turn off my Arc Mage, it goes all the way down to 50,000. This is a 50% damage increase for turning this button on, but it massively increases the mana cost. Now, Arc on its own with Arc Mage is not too bad, but it's when you incorporate Mana Tempest that the mana cost becomes pretty brutal. But even if you're low gear, you can just run Arc and not worry about pressing Mana Tempest, and the build will feel quite a bit smoother than it used to, where you had to cast Mana Tempest before every pack. But I know some people will still prefer Mana Tempest, so if you still like the old setup, you can still play it, where you're playing the cast on Ailment Snap and generating your infusions that way. But in general, this version of the build does a lot more damage. Now, we had to make some changes to the skill tree to make this possible, because the mana consumption is brutal. So for starters, I have completely specced out of the chill nodes, and I am instead speccing into Arcane Surge with Force of Will. This is going to give you a ton of mana generation. Arcane Surge itself gives you 15% increased cast speed and 20% more mana generation, combined with Force of Will, which unfortunately we can't use the first effect, but the second effect is going to give us increased effective Arcane Surge based on missing mana. And just real quick, for those of you who are wondering, this 20% of damage taken from mana before life doesn't work because we never take damage from our life. Yeah, you'd think it would go through ES, but it doesn't. So this first part will do nothing. But the increased effect of Arcane Surge makes that node worth it, especially when we come over here, we're getting Touch the Arcane for 40% increased effective Arcane Surge, as well as grabbing these two nodes for another 30%. In the end, we end up getting a lot of extra mana generation from this setup. We are also going to be anointing a new skill, a new passive on our amulet, which is Conservative Casting. This is an extremely cheap anoint. I think this is only a couple of chaos. It's maybe like 10 or 15 exalts. It's very cheap, and it gives you an incredible amount of value. It's going to increase your mana generation while also reducing the cost of your spells. So this is going to make it much easier to maintain your spell cast, which is very important. Now, there is another very important piece we need to talk about on the passive tree, which is melding. So melding point for point is one of the best maximum energy shield nodes in the entire game, but it has the drawback of reducing your maximum mana. So you can see in this case, I want to specifically look at mana generation because this tends to be more important than maximum mana. So in this case, I have 460 maximum mana generation. If I take off melding, I go from 460 all the way to 503. So this is over a 10% increase in mana generation. Pretty damn strong by not running this. But so this is one of the things that you can drop if you're having mana issues, is the point that I'm trying to make. If you're having mana issues, you can always just take this node off, and it's going to actually pretty significantly reduce the mana requirements to play the build. For me, however, I am able to play it with the node, although obviously on like my Zesh kills and stuff, it feels a little weird, but in general, it's pretty decent. In all cases. As part of solving for this mana issue, it's very important that we get mana rolls and on as much of our gear as possible. And remember that maximum mana does increase mana generation, as we saw with the melding node, so maximum mana rolls are just as good, if not better, than mana generation nodes. And also remember that Arc Mage is going to give us more damage based on our maximum mana, so maximum mana doubles dips into both regen and damage dealt, but it also increased the cost of the spells. So a lot of balancing here, but the point is, on Wand, mana generation is great, on your Rings, mana regeneration is great, and on your Focus, you're able to get it as well, although in my case, I'm currently playing Crit instead, because I'm a greedy little bastard. So overall, though, you want to get as much mana as possible. Now, I do want to say, because I just hovered my gear, I know a lot of people are going to look at my gear and be like, my god, is this guy geared? And I am very geared, and it does help the build. It makes the build quite a bit better having so much gear. But, as you guys saw from my previous video where I recorded footage, you know, like day 1, I think it was, this build still destroys tier 15 even without this gear. I killed Zesh, tier 3 Zesh, on like day 3 or day 2 or something like that when I had much less gear than I do now. This build is still able to clear all of the content and still functions perfectly well even without this much gear. It's just going to make your life quite a bit better if you've got it. So if we're able to get the Anoint on our necklace and we're able to get some mana generation rolls on our gear, and if we've got enough levels to take the mana nodes in our passive tree, we're able to incorporate Archmage into the build for a pretty substantial damage increase. Up next, I want to talk about some other changes I made specifically to the shock generation of the build, and I also want to talk about something I talked a lot about in the previous build, which is Lightning Conduit, which is something you're probably noticing is missing here. So let's start by talking about shock. So remember, we have strike twice from our passive tree, which this is going to allow us to shock targets twice. So you can have 2 shocks on them, which is going to be a huge damage increase. This actually makes it so that on jewels and stuff, shock magnitude and magnitude of ailments actually ends up being better than things like crit chance or flat damage, which is pretty wild. But you get so much damage from shock because you double dip that, yeah, you just want to stack as much shock magnitude as possible. And as part of that, we're running the Darkness Enthroned belt, which I'm pretty sure is a new belt this season. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a new belt this season. And this belt is able to, this is very important, okay, make sure you listen to this moment. This belt is able to roll 2 sockets on it, and it uses those sockets as if it was from another item slot. So in this case, my belt is treating the sockets on the item as if it were gloves, and then it's buffing those socket effects by 94%. Keep in mind, when you're buying this, okay, this is your warning, this can roll different stats. This can be helmet, this can be chest, this could be boots. Make sure you get one that says gloves, okay? And if you get that, you're going to get what I have, which is 76% increased magnitude of non-damaging ailments, which is shock. 76% increased shock magnitude times 2 because we're applying 2 shocks. Pretty damn sweet. And we're applying these runes through the shock magnitude through the Thane's Granal rune of mastery, which sounds pretty badass. We're also running these on our gloves, although currently, because I'm a greedy bastard for mana, I had to run a fire resistant rune on my glove. But if you're able to get double sockets on your gloves, then the shock magnitude is really good. Even with 1 socket, it's still really good. So now the immediate question that you're probably wondering is, if we're getting so much shock magnitude now, why aren't I running Lightning Conduit anymore? And the straight up answer to that is that the cast time on Lightning Conduit ends up getting the spell interrupted more often than it goes off. And in most cases, I one-shot bosses anyway. And so Lightning Conduit, while extremely strong, currently doesn't fit into my build. But I'm currently on the lookout for a Dueling Wand, because Dueling Wand has access to a buff called Spell Slinger. And basically how this works is, after you cast 4 arcs, you can instantly cast any socketed spell in the Spell Slinger skill, which means you can instantly cast Lightning Conduit without having that really long wind up. Once I get this, I really want to try out Lightning Conduit again to see if it's good. But as you can see in these clips, you know, I'm killing Zesh in 15 seconds. I'm killing map bosses like instantly. And if I can't even get a Dueling Wand with all of our freaking mirrors and divs and everything, then who else is going to be able to buy one, right? But, you know, if you get lucky to get one, please try out Lightning Conduit and tell me in the comments down below if you think it's strong, because I really want to know. I really want to try it. Up next, I want to talk about jewels in the passive tree, because there's a bunch of new really strong jewels that we need to talk about, as well as some old jewels that still hold up in comparison. And then at the end, I want to talk about something that a lot of people have been asking me, okay? Because on my PoE Ninja, there has been a new build that I've been flashing on my profile every once in a while as I do some testing. I've gotten a lot of questions about it, so at the end of the video, I want to talk a little bit about this new build that I've been working on, just to give you guys kind of a, you know, a bit of a trailer, I suppose, for what's to come. But let us start by talking about jewels. Now, your baseline jewels are very strong because they have magnitude of ailments and magnitude of shock, and you're able to get both rolls. This makes your baseline jewels very powerful. You're also able to get things like crit chance, spellcast speed, damage, energy shield. There's a lot of very strong rolls that you can get on regular jewels. And as you can see, I'm still running one myself. And honestly, if I had really good ones, I would be running more than one. But even with the double roll, this one performs very well. Now, there is this new gem called Heart of the Well, which was added this season. These are still fairly expensive, but if you're like reaching towards the end of Endgame, and especially, you know, if you're looking for gear like a week or two from now, these are going to come down a lot in price. So currently these are very expensive. These are likely to come down quite a bit. And I want to tell you guys, this increased energy shield from Armor Node is really freaking strong, okay? Like you can see right now at 8.7k ES. If I take this off, I lose 400 energy shield. 400 energy shield just from that one roll. That's a lot of value, man. That's really good. And at the same time, this is giving me extra damage as fire, which, you know, any extra damage roll here is great. And it's giving crit chance, which is decent. It's not quite as good as these other rolls, but still very good. So, Heart of the Well, you know, if you got a trade up, dude, look for good Heart of the Wells. You can sometimes snipe some pretty nutty ones for pretty cheap. Definitely keep your eye on that. And now the next thing I'm going to show you is, it's a bit of a brag, okay? I can't lie. I'm pretty happy I have this item, but it's something that you can chase towards as you progress your character, and it's going to make your character quite a bit stronger. But again, okay, build still works perfectly fine without it, all right? So don't freak out. But it's the From Nothing Eldritch Battery. What this does, and this is really cool, is it allows you to allocate nodes around the Eldritch Battery key passive. This means I'm able to take Drenched, Lightning Quick, Raw Mana, Arcane Intensity, and Ether Flow for quite a bit of damage increase. But again, not needed, but if you're looking for like a really cool chase item to go for, these, I think I got this for about 7 or 8 divs. So definitely keep an eye out for one of these as you progress into the turbo late game. Now, I want to close out the video real quick by talking about the new build I've been working on that I've gotten a crazy amount of questions about. I can't believe how many of you guys are watching my PoE Ninja, okay? It's pretty fun though, I like it. So in my PoE Ninja, a lot of you guys have seen that I've been playing a lot of Spark. The reason for this is because Spark has very good AoE clear while still having pretty decent boss damage. So obviously Arc is very strong in AoE and pretty damn good in single target. But the thing I really like about Spark, and the reason why I've been playing with it more, is when you get to gear like mine, which is obviously freaking insane, Spark becomes really strong because you can afford the absolutely ludicrous mana costs that are required to be able to play the build. I think it actually, at peak gear, is probably going to map faster and maybe even have better boss damage than Arc, but it's going to require some pretty nutty gear. But I'm going to keep working on that. If I figure anything out, I will definitely let you guys know. But for now, this is going to be my last update on Arc for a while. This build is very optimized, I think, at this point. But if any new techs or anything come out, if anything new gets discovered, I'm definitely going to be making more Arc videos. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.